You've seen it before. The smartest man in the room gets pushed aside by someone louder, cruder, less disciplined, sometimes obviously less competent. The sharper man has better judgment, better timing, better analysis. He sees more, understands more, and still loses ground to a man who interrupts, overclaims, presses too hard, asks for things he did not earn, and acts as if resistance is optional, and what makes it sting is not just the loss, it's the insult of it. A man who should not be winning is winning. In this video, I'm going to show you why intelligence alone keeps losing to shameless people, how the mechanism works in ordinary social and professional life, and what correction stops it before it becomes your permanent role. Machiavelli belongs here immediately because he understood a brutal truth. Modern men still resist. Politics begins where morality stops regulating behavior. A lot of losses happen because one man is still trying to preserve dignity while the other is trying to seize territory. So, this is the frame. Not fairness, not personality, not even mainly confidence. Power. One man feels friction before action. The other turns your restraint into his freedom. Machiavelli would have recognized that at once. Men do not win because they are more refined or more correct. They win because they can act, impose, and survive the consequences long enough to shape the field around them. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The first advantage is freedom from internal friction. The shameless person's first advantage shows up before the contest is even visible. It is not intelligence. It is not talent. It is not some noble form of courage. It is freedom from internal friction. Most smart men pay a psychological tax before they act. They edit themselves. They ask whether this is appropriate, fair, elegant, necessary, proportional. They think about tone. They think about appearances. They think about whether they have enough certainty to speak, enough proof to accuse, enough standing to ask, enough justification to push. The shameless man pays much less of that tax. So he moves. He follows up too many times. He asks for access he did not earn. He takes the liberty before permission arrives. He reframes his own failure on the spot. He speaks before he is fully sure. He takes up space while the smarter man is still refining the sentence in his head. That matters more than people think, because in live environments, hesitation is never fully hidden. It leaks. A smart man pauses because he is calibrating. A shameless man does not pause because he has no respect for calibration unless it helps him. To observers, one often looks tentative and the other looks certain. That certainty may be false, it may be cheap, it may be completely unsupported, but it is moving, and movement usually beats refinement in the first seconds of a contest. Look at simple examples. In a meeting, the shameless man speaks first, frames the issue first, and tells everyone else what they are now reacting to. In a negotiation, he asks for more than he deserves because he knows many people negotiate down from the first claim instead of punishing the claim itself. In social life, he inserts himself into circles where a more self-aware man waits to be properly included. The smarter man often tells himself he is being disciplined. Sometimes he is. But often, what he calls discipline is just overpayment for self-image. He wants to remain the man who is measured, fair, rational, not petty, not pushy, not crude. He is managing the situation, yes, but he is also managing how he looks to himself inside it. The shameless person has a simpler relationship to action. He wants the gain. If the path to the gain requires interruption, presumption, selective memory, aggressive follow-up, or public pressure, he uses it. That does not make him superior. It makes him operational. And that is the first hard truth. Intelligence without permission to impose becomes a spectator trait. You can see more than the other man and still lose to him because he is willing to cross thresholds you are still evaluating. The contest begins in the gap between impulse and action. If he crosses that gap faster, he starts collecting position before you even decide whether the moment deserves a response. That is why shamelessness gets mistaken for confidence. Not because it is deep, not because it is admirable, because it removes visible hesitation. And most people are bad at telling real certainty apart from low-friction aggression. The smart man thinks, then acts. The shameless man acts, while the smart man is still paying for thought. That is the first advantage. Chapter 2. Smart men misread shamelessness as temporary noise. The second mistake comes right after the first. Smart men usually do see shameless behavior clearly. They are not confused. In fact, they often diagnose it faster than everyone else. They know the man is overclaiming. They know he is bluffing, distorting, posturing, forcing proximity, using pressure where merit is thin. Recognition is not the issue. The issue is that they misread how durable the tactic is. Intelligent men often treat shamelessness as temporary noise. They expect contradiction to expose it. They expect time to punish it. They expect reality to defend itself. That is one of the most expensive illusions an intelligent person can carry. He thinks, this man is obviously sloppy, obviously inflated, obviously overreaching. Sooner or later, people will see it. Maybe. But by then, the shameless man may already have taken the room, the contact, the deal, the role, the narrative, or the timing that mattered. The smart man overestimates how quickly systems correct themselves. He believes coherence has force on its own. He believes facts carry themselves. He believes merit has a natural pull. Machiavelli would laugh at that. He understood that men judge largely by appearance and result, not always by principle, and in fast-moving environments, usually not by principle first. If a man occupies space decisively, survives contradiction, and keeps moving, many observers start reading that motion as substance after the fact. The smart man expects fraud to collapse under its own weakness. The shameless man knows repetition can outlast exposure. He knows that if he says the thing first, often enough, loudly enough, with enough forward motion, many people will not stop the machine to audit him. They will adapt to the presented reality, because adaptation is cheaper than correction. This is how intelligence starts helping its own defeat. The smart man keeps waiting for impersonal forces to deliver a punishment he is unwilling to deliver himself. He thinks the liar will be discredited by truth. He thinks the bully will be disliked into irrelevance. He thinks the opportunist will be excluded by fairness. He thinks the loud, incompetent man will eventually embarrass himself out of influence. Sometimes that happens, usually not before damage, sometimes not at all. Because social systems do not reward truth alone. They reward occupation. They reward continuity. They reward the person who leaves the least ambiguity about intention. A shameless person may be weak inside and still durable outside because he does not need inner approval to continue. He does not need to feel noble. He only needs to keep pressure alive. And this is where the smart man loses a second time. First, he hesitates. Then he decides the other man's shamelessness will cancel itself. He tells himself, I don't need to get involved. This will expose itself. No, what usually exposes itself first is your unwillingness to answer. And once that becomes visible, the shameless man is no longer just noisy. He is now the active force in the environment, while you are the man quietly waiting for reality to do your work. Reality does not defend itself. People defend positions, or they lose them. Chapter 3. Other people start repricing both men. This is where the contest stops being psychological and becomes political. Once shameless behavior survives unpunished, observers begin repricing both men. That is the part most people miss. They think the issue is only image. One man looks bold, the other looks restrained. But the real change is not cosmetic. It is material. People start reallocating attention, deference, access, and expectation. The shameless man becomes the person others root around, appease, include, or pre-negotiate with. The smart man becomes the person expected to understand, absorb, and regulate himself. Watch how quickly this happens in ordinary life. In meetings, people start watching the shameless man's reaction before they speak, because they know he may interrupt, object, escalate, or hijack the frame. He is difficult, so he becomes consequential. Others adapt to anticipated friction. The smart man, meanwhile, is treated as safe. He is expected to be reasonable, to wait, to tolerate, to clean up ambiguity with better explanations. His intelligence becomes labor for the environment, not authority over it. In a workplace, the shameless operator gets copied on emails because people do not want surprises from him later. He gets advance notice, not because he earned it, but because others are managing the disruption he might create. The smarter man gets informed late, or not at all, because everyone assumes he will be mature about it. In a friend group, the shameless person can bend plans around himself through pure inconvenience. He is always a factor. He may be disliked, but he is calculated. The more measured man gets asked to compromise because his restraint lowers the cost of burdening him. In family life, one person becomes the permanent exception, and another becomes the permanent absorber. One causes scenes, the other keeps peace. Guess which role slowly loses territory? This is not admiration. That is the key point. People do not need to admire force to submit to it. They only need to believe it carries immediate cost. That is enough. And once this repricing begins, the smart man suffers a quiet downgrade. He is no longer treated as the senior intelligence in the room. He becomes the man who can be stretched, deferred, bypassed, given the moral burden of staying composed while someone else keeps testing the edges. This is how intelligence becomes decorative. If your mind is impressive, but your lines are negotiable, people do not assign you final say. They assign you interpretation. They consult you after the frame has already been set by someone more forceful. That is the insult at the center of this whole subject. The smarter man often remains respected in language and dismissed in allocation. People praise his judgment while routing power elsewhere. They call him brilliant, thoughtful, grounded, trustworthy. Then they schedule around the shameless man. They accommodate the shameless man. They ask what the shameless man will think. They prepare for the shameless man's response. And by doing that, they reveal the brutal rule. In social life, authority often goes not to the best mind, but to the person whose resistance changes other people's behavior. Chapter 4. Repetition turns advantage into structure. Now the pattern hardens. A single incident can be excused. Repetition cannot. Once shamelessness keeps getting rewarded with movement, the field reorganizes around it. What began as an irritation becomes a structure. This is the point where many smart men realize they are no longer losing isolated exchanges. They are living inside an order built by someone else's willingness to impose immediate cost. Structure is repeated behavior that other people now treat as normal. The shameless man becomes the one who can interrupt without paying for it, the one whose version of events is heard first, the one who gets early access because people would rather manage him than confront him, the one everyone schedules around because not accommodating him creates more friction than accommodating him. That is how calendars become political, how communication channels become political, how habits become political. Who gets invited early? Who gets told first? Who gets asked for approval, even unofficially? Whose mood alters the room? Whose delay matters? Whose irritation gets managed before it appears? That is structure. And once structure forms, reversal gets expensive. Early resistance may have required one clean correction. Late resistance requires dismantling a whole set of expectations. Now, if you object, you are not merely setting a boundary. You are disrupting an established flow. Other people resent that because they have already adapted to the regime. They may not like the shameless man, but they have built routines around him. So the smart man arrives late to his own defense and finds that he is no longer resisting a person. He is resisting a network of accommodations. In professional life, this can mean the shameless operator becomes the unofficial gatekeeper. He is on every thread, in every conversation, attached to every decision, not because he earned strategic centrality through excellence, but because exclusion became inconvenient. In personal life, it means one person trains everyone else to yield in advance. He overreacts, so people pre-surrender. He pushes, so others over-explain. He violates small limits, so eventually nobody remembers where the limits were. That is how a personality becomes a regime. The efficiency of shamelessness is not just that it pushes, it trains the environment to push with it. The operator no longer has to force every outcome directly. The room bends before contact. That is power. And that is why the early moments matter so much. People think they are being generous when they absorb the first overreach, the first presumption, the first stolen frame, the first unfair ask. Usually they are financing the next 5. Systems stabilize around the person most willing to create immediate cost. If that person is not checked, his behavior becomes the practical law of the space, not the moral law, the practical law, and practical law governs access, timing, and command. Chapter 5. Why morality alone cannot solve a power problem. At this point, many intelligent men retreat into one last comfort. They tell themselves, yes, this person is shameless. Yes, he is manipulative, invasive, opportunistic, vulgar. But at least I am not like that. Morally, that may be true. Strategically, it is often surrender, wearing clean clothes. Machiavelli matters here because he removes the anesthesia. He does not tell you virtue is worthless. He tells you something colder. Virtue without force does not govern events. A prince who refuses every unpleasant measure does not keep the world clean. He simply yields initiative to men who do not refuse them. That is the distinction smart men hate. Being right and being effective are not the same thing. Moral superiority can preserve innocence. It cannot preserve position unless it is backed by a willingness to defend territory. This is why the advice to just stay above it fails so often. Above what? Above the first encroachment while your access shrinks? Above the false framing while your silence gets read as acceptance? Above the repeated burden while everyone learns you are the one who will absorb it? Take a simple workplace example. A man keeps taking your idea, presenting a cleaner version of it, and doing it in a tone that makes confrontation look awkward. You stay calm, you stay professional, you tell yourself the quality gap will be obvious. Then he becomes the point of contact. Your boss starts going to him first, and your restraint gets reinterpreted as consent. What looked like dignity becomes unpaid transfer. Silent dignity is not always dignity. Sometimes it is submission with better language, and shameless people understand this instinctively. They know many intelligent, decent men would rather preserve a clean internal image than risk looking harsh in public, so they force the choice. They make resistance feel socially ugly. They count on your reluctance to appear petty, aggressive, insecure, controlling, dramatic, or cruel. They know that if they can make enforcement look less attractive than endurance, many men will choose endurance until the position is gone. This is why moral language so often arrives after strategic defeat. A man loses ground, then explains why the other man is dishonorable. That may be accurate, but power does not answer to accurate description. Power answers to interruption. If someone can keep taking, keep pressing, keep framing, keep occupying, and all he receives in return is your private clarity about his character, then your morality is functioning as commentary, not command. To be clear, this is not an argument for corruption. It is not praise for lying, cruelty, or random domination. It is a narrower and colder claim. A power problem cannot be solved by moral disapproval alone. The shameless person does not stop because you are correct about him. He stops when continuation becomes expensive. Until then, your decency is just one more environmental factor he has learned to exploit. Chapter 6. The strategic answer is controlled shamelessness. So, what is the answer? Not chaos, not vulgarity, not becoming a clown in the name of toughness, not emotional explosions mistaken for strength. The answer is controlled shamelessness. That means a disciplined willingness to impose cost early, clearly, and without theater. You do not need to become morally dirty. You do need to stop treating enforcement as a stain on your identity. Think of the correction in 5 moves. First, answer early. Do not wait for a pattern to become a system. Answer the first overreach, not the 5th. A man takes liberties with your time, your name, your work, your access, your boundaries, your frame. Answer there. Early correction is cheap. Late correction is war. Second, force clarity when ambiguity is being used against you. Shameless people thrive in fog. They imply, overstep, revise, and retreat. Bring the act into the open when useful. Ask the direct question in front of the right people. State the line plainly. Make the hidden maneuver visible. A lot of predatory behavior depends on everyone pretending not to notice. Refuse the pretense. Third, attach memory and cost. Do not grant free retries by default. If a man misrepresents, say so. If he bypasses process, document it. If he burns trust, reduce access. If he uses pressure, make the memory stick. The point is not revenge. The point is that behavior must alter his future options. Fourth, reduce verbal surplus. This is where many intelligent men fail. They think better explanation will solve what is really a boundary problem. So they produce long justifications, careful context, elegant reasoning. The shameless person hears weakness in surplus explanation. He reads your need to be fully understood as permission to keep negotiating what should already be settled. State the point, state the line, end the loop. Fifth, control access. Do not let your calm, competence, time, or good faith be treated like a public utility. If someone wants access, time, accommodation, flexibility, or forgiveness, attach terms. Make requests symmetrical. If he can ask, you can ask. If he can escalate, you can escalate. If he can create inconvenience, he can absorb inconvenience. And when necessary, escalate once instead of complaining 10 times. One clean escalation teaches faster than repeated wounded observations. Documentation, direct confrontation, reduced access, formal process, strategic exposure. Whatever fits the environment, use it with precision, not rage, precision. That is what controlled shamelessness really is. It is not impulsive aggression. It is freedom from unnecessary shame when defense is required. It is refusal to subsidize another person's boldness with your restraint. Machiavelli would respect that distinction. The effective man is not the loudest or the crudest. He is the one who knows when softness becomes permission and when measured hardness becomes necessary for order. Chapter 7. The new rule, make them calculate you. Now, we get to the deepest principle. Your goal is not to be liked. It is not to be admired. It is not even to be seen as strong in some theatrical sense. Your goal is to become a variable others must calculate. That is what shameless people exploit in soft targets. They sense that no meaningful consequence is attached to overreach. They do not need certainty. They only need the expectation of free movement. Once that expectation dies, much of their boldness dies with it. Notice how many shameless people are only fearless in one direction. They are expansive with men who delay, soften, over-explain, absorb. Put that same person in front of someone who documents, refuses, names the move, and imposes cost early, and his behavior often changes very fast. Why? Because now he has to calculate. He must calculate delay. He must calculate exposure. He must calculate refusal. He must calculate loss of access. He must calculate retaliation that is cold rather than emotional. And calculation is the beginning of restraint. This is the real objective in any power contest. Not winning an argument about who is good, not performing dignity while being drained, not collecting private insights about the psychology of difficult people. The objective is to alter the other person's decision-making. That is power. Power begins when your boundaries stop sounding like requests and start changing behavior. If a shameless person can still advance exactly as before after hearing your objection, then you have not imposed a limit. You have delivered information. Information is cheap. Consequence teaches. And once others know, they must factor you in, not your feelings, not your intelligence, but your concrete effect on outcomes. The environment changes. Your time stops being assumed. Your silence stops being read as infinite tolerance. Your cooperation stops being treated as an entitlement. The shameless man loses his easiest source of borrowed authority, because that is what a lot of shameless dominance really is. Borrowed authority, drawn from other people's unwillingness to answer it. A man does not need to understand you to exploit you. He only needs to believe you are safe to ignore. The chain is simple. The shameless person moves first because he pays less internal cost for action. The smart man misreads that advantage as temporary noise and waits for reality to punish it on its own. Because it survives, other people reprice both men, routing attention, deference, and accommodation toward the one who creates more immediate friction. Repeated long enough, that repricing hardens into structure, habits, permissions, roles, access, timing. Morality alone does not interrupt this. Chosen pressure does. Smart men do not lose to shameless people because shameless people are deeper, stronger, or wiser. They lose because the shameless man is willing to make contact with consequences, while the smart man is still negotiating with his own image. In power contests, shamelessness is often just your unanswered restraint turned into someone else's authority. Subscribe and like if you want power explained without moral fog. If people never have to calculate you, they will eventually price you as harmless. Comment, where do you see this mechanism most clearly work? Family, friendships, or dating?